would talk a little bit about the beginnings of Base Brats. I have been working on this series for 2 years now. One night I just couldn't get these thoughts out of my head about military kids. And so I write them down because that's what I do. So I wanted to share a little bit about what I wrote 2 years ago, because it's changed and it's come quite a ways. So in the middle of the night, I got up and I jotted down these notes. Military magic, my dad's a sailor, confessions of a military brat, Plan D, first in a series of early chapter books centering around 2 siblings in a military family, twins, my life as a military brat. And when I got up in the morning, twins had become Poppy and Daisy. So I wrote Poppy and Daisy, weeds, beautiful and able to grow no matter where they are planted. This shift of just 2 siblings to the twins and the weeds is really where the story started to come together for me, because it really was the most beautiful metaphor, in my opinion, for what military kids are expected to do. They're expected to put down roots immediately in a new place. They're expected to bloom beautifully while they're there, and then they're expected to just pick up and move on as if they were never there. And if that's not a weed, then I don't know what is. And I've also, over the years, I've come to change the way that I see things, and a general life philosophy is that it's only a weed if you consider it a weed. And so when things happen in my life that I'm not necessarily excited about, or that I would see as weeds in my garden to be pulled out, I try to shift my perspective and see the beauty in that thing so that I can enjoy the weeds in addition to the flowers. And so kind of all of that came together on the next morning to create this family for Base Brats. And I wrote the first book and I finished it in probably less than a month. But it was very different than what it is now. And after a couple of months of not looking at it and then coming back and reading it again, I felt like it wasn't right, but I could not put my finger on what was wrong with it. So I left it alone for a little bit longer, and then I came back and realized as I was reading through a 3rd or 4th time that the story I wanted to start with was mentioned in that book, but it wasn't the central theme of that book. So I went back in time and I wrote that other story thinking, okay, this will be an exercise, and then I'll come back and I'll know what's wrong with this. No. Well, it was an exercise. I wrote that and realized that's where my series needed to start. And because of that, it changed the beginning of these books from what I expected to be YA novellas to middle grade novels, early middle grade novels even, because of the age of the children and that shift of perspective on the world and the military life. Once I started writing them from that viewpoint and from that starting point, it all fell into place. I was able to take the one book that I had written and break it up into the several first books in the series, and writing got easier and more fluid, and it felt right. It felt like what these characters needed to say, and it felt like where their story needed to start and needed to be, and that kind of allowed it to grow into something bigger than what I expected it to be at first, which is always exciting when you can discover that these characters have more to say than you originally thought. So that's where Base Brats started, and that's where Base Brats has come. And the next step is getting these first 2 books on the shelves, in your hands, and out into the world.